She once confessed to infidelity in real life, yet became unforgettable for portraying a betrayed wife on screen. At 15, she ran away from home with a boy, but spent decades boxed into Hollywood's image of the perfect, proper woman. Diane Lane is one of cinema's strangest paradoxes. Coppola's muse, hailed by Laurence Olivier as the new Grace Kelly, placed on the cover of Time magazine as a prodigy. Yet never once in 4 decades did she take home a major award. Her story is both dazzling and tragic. A girl who grew up in the backseat of a taxi with her struggling father, a 13-year-old who stunned Olivier into silence, a young starlet who seemed destined for immortality, only to vanish so completely that critics assumed she had already burned out. And then she returned, not with a blockbuster, but with a silent 1-minute scene that forced the world to look at her differently. But behind that gaze lay untold storms, 2 failed marriages, a public arrest, a shocking confession that rewrote her image, and years of quiet withdrawal that made people forget she was still there. So who is Diane Lane really? A fallen star, or a woman who chose honesty and survival over Hollywood's illusions? Diane Lane entered the world on January 22, 1965, in New York City. But her earliest years were marked by chaos rather than comfort. Her mother, Colleen Farrington, a nightclub singer and former Playboy model, left when Diane was still a child. Her father, Burton Lane, an acting coach and occasional taxi driver, raised her in a life that was transient and uncertain. They drifted from hotel to hotel, living out of suitcases. Diane often spending her days in the backseat of his cab while he spoke of philosophy and theatre. That instability taught her 2 things: how to observe in silence and how to protect herself. At 15, she ran away with a co-star, a reckless decision born of too much freedom, too soon. Not long after, her absent mother suddenly resurfaced, taking her to Georgia without consent for 6 weeks. Diane lived with her grandmother, a Pentecostal preacher, in a house stripped of glamour and noise. The contrast between chaos and stillness would shape the way she navigated the rest of her life. But resilience carried her forward. At 13, she landed a little romance opposite Laurence Olivier. To the astonishment of critics, the girl from a taxi became the new Grace Kelly, catapulted overnight into Hollywood's spotlight. Childhood was over. By the early 1980s, Diane Lane seemed destined for immortality. After a little romance, she became Coppola's muse, appearing in The Outsiders, Rumblefish, and The Cotton Club. At just 18, she was already a millionaire and a fixture of Hollywood's new wave. Time magazine hailed her as the fresh face of American cinema. But with fame came shadows. Audiences adored her chemistry with co-stars like Matt Dillon, Richard Gere, and Michael Paré, and tabloids quickly blurred fiction with reality. A single glance on screen was enough to spark rumors of affairs. Diane once said in frustration, "I play someone's lover on screen. That doesn't mean I love them in real life." Yet few listened. As the public consumed her as a dream girl, the actress beneath grew weary. The roles offered to her recycled the same image, the idealized love interest rather than a fully realized woman. Critics began whispering that she was burning out, another child prodigy fading too soon. So, at the height of her early fame, Diane made a bold choice. She stepped back, refusing roles that boxed her in, avoiding interviews, and guarding her private life fiercely. She chose survival over spotlight. Hollywood was dazzled, but it didn't truly understand her. After years of being cast as Hollywood's safe dream girl, Diane Lane reinvented herself in the most unexpected way. In 2002, she accepted the risky role of Connie Sumner in Unfaithful. Connie was neither innocent nor villain. She was a woman hollowed by quiet loneliness, who makes one devastating mistake just to feel alive. The film's most famous moment came not in words, but in silence. Connie riding a train home, her hands trembling, her breath shallow, her face unable to mask guilt and desire. That haunting one-minute scene wasn't scripted. Director Adrian Lyne told the crew to just roll something, and Diane closed her eyes, surrendering to raw instinct. Shot in a single take, it became one of the most iconic portrayals of inner conflict in modern cinema. The performance earned her an Academy Award nomination and shifted how Hollywood saw her. No longer a supporting lover, but a complex woman of contradictions. She followed with Under the Tuscan Sun, 2003, a story of rebirth after heartbreak. As Frances, a divorced writer, rebuilding her life in Italy, Diane embodied resilience without pretense. The role resonated deeply with women over 35, proving she wasn't chasing youth, she was speaking to reality. And in doing so, she became unforgettable again. Behind Diane Lane's calm poise lay storms the public rarely saw. Her first great romance began in Paris with actor Christopher Lambert. Their love felt like a film reel, letters, flights across continents. A quiet wedding in 1988, and the birth of their daughter Eleanor in 1993, but distance and different worlds wore them down. By 1994, they divorced, not in anger, but with quiet respect, even after separation. Diane never spoke ill of Lambert. They remained connected through their daughter, leaving behind a love story that still feels unfinished. Nearly a decade later, she married Josh Brolin, a union that began with passion but soon cracked under turmoil. Only months after their wedding in 2004, Brolin was arrested for domestic battery following a heated argument. Diane declined to press charges, calling it a misunderstanding. Yet the incident cast a shadow. More bar fights and public altercations followed, and by 2013 the marriage ended in silence. Diane walked away without bitterness, never crafting a victim narrative, simply choosing dignity over spectacle. Then, in 2005, she shocked Hollywood by openly admitting past affairs with Timothy Hutton and Christopher Atkins. It shattered her image as the eternal betrayed wife. But in truth, it revealed something deeper. Diane Lane was not an icon of perfection. She was human, flawed, and unafraid to own her truth. Diane Lane's story is not one of endless scandals or golden trophies. It is the story of endurance, quiet strength, and a woman who refused to let Hollywood define her. She began as a child prodigy, stunned Laurence Olivier, disappeared when critics thought she had burned out, and returned with roles that redefined what middle-aged women could be on screen. She has never won an Oscar, but she has won something far rarer, the enduring respect of audiences who see truth in her eyes. She chose silence when others sought headlines. She aged without clinging to youth, calling every wrinkle a memory. She lived simply, practicing yoga, riding horses, tending gardens, and pouring her devotion into her daughter, Eleanor. To the industry, she remains a paradox, not the most decorated, not the loudest, but always unforgettable when she appears. Her legacy lies not in statues or records, but in the way she made ordinary women visible, fragile, flawed, and worthy of empathy. From Unfaithful to Under the Tuscan Sun, from Martha Kent to quiet indie roles. She reminded us that acting is not about noise, but presence. Diane Lane's journey reminds us that true strength is not measured by trophies or headlines, but by the quiet courage to face life with honesty. She teaches us that even after heartbreak, scandal, or fading spotlight, dignity and resilience can carry you further than fame ever could. Her story is a mirror for anyone who has stumbled yet chosen to rise again. What about you? Do you believe her honesty makes her more human, more relatable? Share your thoughts in the comments, leave a like if this story moved you, and subscribe for more Untold Hollywood journeys.